Quotation from myself, segment 5, quotation number 57. The only people we can ever hope to convince of anything are those who already agree with us before we even start arguing. Number 58. I wouldn't mind to sell my soul to the devil, providing, of course, that the price is right. But I categorically refuse to get in line to give it for free. After all, a man has to have some principles. Number 59. Whatever you do in life, try to find interest and enjoyment in the process of doing it, and not in the end result, which by itself very often could be quite disappointing. Number 60. Even if we concede that a statement like 2 plus 2 equals 4 is trite, boring, and unimaginative, it doesn't follow that to say 2 plus 2 equals 5 is original, innovative, and stimulating. For it is not. It is simply and plainly false, no more, no less. Number 61. Whatever we possess, be it our money, our time, our life, we can dispose of it in at least 3 different ways. The first way is to keep it all. The second, to give away everything we have to the others. And the third, to leave as much as we think we need for ourselves, and to give the others the rest. The first way will never bring us real happiness. Of course, our immediate personal needs will be satisfied in the best possible manner our possession can allow. But we will deprive ourselves of the most valuable and absolutely indispensable for happiness thing in life: companionship, love, and respect of the other, because all this is given only to those who always give. If we follow the second route and give all that we have away, we shall subject ourselves voluntarily to much greater unhappiness than in the first case, because of becoming from that moment on totally dependent on mercy of the others for the satisfaction of our most basic needs. We will find ourselves in a position of King Lear, who gave all he had away and then had to beg to get some crumbs of it back. But what is even worse, we will begin to resent and sometimes even to hate the very people to whom we gave our possessions, seeing them as the reason for our misery and deprivation now when they have all we had owned before. It is obvious by now that the third way of dividing our possessions, when the giver still retains enough to be able to satisfy his needs, and the receiver is grateful for the gift without feeling guilty of depriving the giver of all he had, and even hating him in some extreme cases for experiencing this guilt, must be the best way. Number 62. Life, which is strictly vicarious, is necessarily precarious. Both the victories and the defeats, out of reach for the one that just sits, idle spectator, without a say, in outcome of the game others play, happy and loud, or quiet and sad, an empty drum beating someone's hand. Number 63. The words are invariably deceptive, even if unintentionally. but the facts could not be argued with. What we say about ourselves or how the others describe us is open to many and various, often conflicting interpretations. But what we have actually done is not. The life of man, therefore, is the best key to understanding of what he is. Even more, the detailed and truthful story of man's life, from the moment of his birth till the day of our inquiry, is in essence what he is. The rest is a commentary. Facts of my life, only from them you can discover who I am. And it's equally true about humanity as a whole. For the truthful and as detailed as possible account of history of mankind from the dawn of civilization till the present time will give us both a portrait and explanation of what the modern man is. Our history is what we are. Number 64. Conversation was a favorite pastime in ancient Greece, especially for those living in a democratic city-state like Athens. Moreover, the claim can be made that the art of conversation was not only a product of democratic society, but the first and foremost its very basis. It stemmed from the nature of conversation in general, and dialogue in particular, as the most egalitarian form of human interaction, since ideally it presupposes the social intellectual equality of interlocutors and their right to speak freely. And theirs was the real freedom of speech when each individual was both and to the same degree a speaker and a listener, as opposed to the modern version of it, when the powerful few had virtually monopolized the right to and means of public discourse, thus effectively reducing overwhelming majority of population to the role of passive listeners. For all these social-political reasons, and also because of the sheer enjoyment they derived from it, the ancient Greek loved to converse. But in order to converse, those who do it had to understand what each of them were saying. And since what they were saying in words, these words had to have the same meaning for everyone. Thus, they were faced with the problem of defining the meaning of words, which could be acceptable to all. For this reason, the definition of words became, for the time being, the main preoccupation of ancient Greeks. And while they were defining the meaning of words, they also had to define the reality those words were describing. As a result, the description and explanation of reality became their another favorite preoccupation. The next inevitable step was to find connection between the words and reality, the spiritual and physical, the idea and the matter, etc., etc., etc. Philosophy was born. Thus again the claim could be made that the art of conversation, and ancient Greek unquestionably had elevated conversation into the highest art form, was not only the basis of democracy, but also the foundation of Greek philosophy, which in its turn became the cornerstone of Western civilization. Number 65. Contemporary culture in general, and today's art in particular, tend to trivialize that which is significant and to present as significant that which is trivial. Furthermore, the modern culture tends to pathologize the normal and normalize the pathological. Number 66. All life is predicated on death. No living organism is self-sufficient and self-contained. In order to live, one must consume somebody or something else. The success of any living species manifests itself in increased consumption, which leads to 1. Proliferation of this species, and 2. Enlargement of its individual representative. These two factors produce an effect of even bigger consumption, which in turn results in further proliferation and enlargement of the species, and so on and so forth. Eventually, if left unchecked, the continuation of such an ever-increasing consumption can destroy the very environment that serves as a feeding ground for the species. And this naturally will cause their own destruction. Their only salvation lies in presence in the same environment of other species which consume them and thus limit their numbers. Such a circular process of eating and being eaten can keep the whole system in equilibrium until one member of the circle, through its superior adaptation to the environment, becomes the last consumer in the chain. Namely, nobody consumes him. Having achieved such predominance, this particular species would eventually, through their ever-increasing number and size, destroy the very environment which has been so beneficial to their evolution and thus destroy themselves. Dinosaurs probably have done that, and now man is rapidly moving in the same direction, helped by artificially increased ability provided by science and technology to consume his environment at a dazzling speed toward his own destruction. Man has defeated nature, but being a part of nature, he has also defeated himself.